1. The Nexari fleet, featuring sleek, crystalline ships, approaches Earth. Their leader, Commander Lathyn, broadcasts a message of imminent conquest to the human population. 2. The Nexari celebrate their superior technology and efficiency, highlighting their precise energy formations and bioluminescent communication. 3. A human defense force, led by Captain Myra Thorne, prepares to respond, but is perceived by the Nexari as an insignificant, disorganized collection of primitive vessels. 1. The Nexari fleet opens fire on Earth's defense, expecting quick destruction. However, human ships absorb energy blasts, showcasing unexpected resilience. 2. Nexari technicians scramble to analyze data, baffled by the human ship's ability to withstand the attacks. 3. Captain Thorne orders a counter-offensive, displaying a strategic understanding of their technology and environment. 1. Human tactics shift drastically mid-battle, with ships maneuvering in unpredictable patterns that perplex Nexari algorithms. 2. The Nexaris logical strategies fail against human creativity, as Captain Thorne adapts in real time, anticipating enemy movements. 3. The alien fleet suffers losses as they struggle to react to the chaotic human maneuvers, leaving them vulnerable. 1. During a critical moment, a human ship sacrifices itself to protect another, surprising the Nexari. 2. This act of bravery becomes contagious, inspiring other human ships to adopt a defensive approach based on protecting comrades. The vastness of space hummed with silent anticipation. A fleet of sleek, crystalline ships glided through the dark, each one shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. The Nexari, beings of light and logic, had arrived. Their leader, Commander Lathyn, commanded them with arrogance. He believed in their superiority, having conquered many worlds. Earth was next. From a distance, Earth looked peaceful, but Lathyn saw only a primitive collection of floating vessels. He viewed humans as disorganized. But in his mind, they were nothing more than a chaotic distraction. The Nexari ships pulsed with blue-green energy, ready to unleash a precision attack. This was merely a formality. Lathyn had no doubt about their victory. His voice echoed through the vastness, a light beam message sent directly to Earth's inhabitants. Humans, your time is over. Surrender now. The message crackled through the airwaves, met with silence. The Nexari celebrated, confident in their perfect technology. They communicated through flashes of light. Colors danced, flickering patterns of blue and green displayed their excitement. Lathyn turned to his officers, his eyes reflecting the glowing ships. They spoke of precision formations and coordinated assaults. The Nexari viewed their own technology as flawless, organic curves glistening under the distant stars. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Myra Thorne stood on the bridge of the USS Valor. The ship's metal hum vibrated through her bones. Her fingers tapped against the control panel, eyes scanning the monitors. She watched the Nexari approach. Fear dripped like rain, but she pushed it aside. Prepare for battle, she commanded. Her voice was steady. Crew members scrambled to their stations, adrenaline pumping. The defense force was ready, but the Nexari saw them as an insignificant threat. They're just a pack of wild animals, Lathyn mused. Let them see our power. The USS Valor shone brightly. Human ships, though more rugged than the Nexaris' artful designs, hummed with a unique energy. Each ship was built for survival, displaying the resilience of humanity. Thorne knew that humans were not just disorganized, they were capable of uncontrolled brilliance. As the Nexari fleet approached, tensions ran high. The Nexari launched the first wave of energy blasts, beams crackling through space. Lathyn watched with satisfaction. He expected to see destruction. Instead, the blasts struck human shields, which absorbed the energy. The Nexari fleet's cheers faltered. What? Lathyn frowned, studying the data. The humans were withstanding their assault. The Nexari ships buzzed with confusion as they lost communication for a moment. They were not prepared for this. Thorn felt the shield vibrations resonate through the valor. She held her breath, focused on the glowing codes flashing on her screen. That's it, we can take their hits, her mind raced. The Nexaris' confidence was their weakness. She felt the pulse of her crew. They were ready to fight, return fire. Thorn's voice rang out, the Valor's cannons hummed into life. The thrumming echo reverberated through the ship, building a sense of unity and focus. The first blasts were fired straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Lathyn's crystalline eyes widened. He was taken aback by the unexpected power of the humans. The ships around him erupted with patterns of light, scrambling to respond, yet they were uncoordinated. They had thought humanity weak, but now doubt crept in like a shadow. As the battle raged, Lathyn's arrogance began to crack. He studied the humans, their chaotic movements, wondering how they could withstand his precise energy formations. He felt a flicker of curiosity. What was this unexpected resilience? The Nexari had always operated under the assumption of order. They believed in logic, efficiency, and control. Here, against the valorous Earth fleet, they faced something fundamentally different. The humans fought not just for themselves, but for an idea larger than their own survival. The battlefield glimmered in waves of color, reflecting both the Nexaris technology and the unpredictable spirit of humanity. Thorn's heart raced as she commanded her crew. They were not merely surviving, they were fighting back with determination. Steady, keep firing, Thorn encouraged, her voice cutting through the chaos. For Lathyn, the unexpected strength of the humans was a puzzle. He saw the ship's hull scarred from impacts, but also saw them press forward. He could not dismiss them so easily anymore. They were resilient, and he was intrigued. As the first wave of lasers lit the void, the Nexari fleet found themselves facing an enemy they had underestimated. The Nexari had come prepared for conquest, but perhaps they were about to learn an important lesson about humanity. In that moment, the battle was no longer just tactical. The stakes grew higher. Humanity was not merely chaotic, it was defiant. The Nexaris perception began to shift, and the thrill of battle filled the air. This was only the beginning. The Nexari fleet hovered in the dark void of space, poised to strike. Commander Lathyn, proud and confident, had ordered the attack. He believed the human defenses were weak and chaotic. He expected an easy victory. The crystalline ships glowed with a brilliant blue-green light, ready to unleash their power. Suddenly, beams of energy shot forth from the Nexari ships. The air crackled as bright bolts of light raced toward Earth. Lathyn watched eagerly, anticipating the swift destruction of the human defenses. His eyes gleamed with confidence. But as the energy blasts hit, something unexpected happened. The human ships, rugged and unyielding, absorbed the energy. Lathyn's surprise was palpable. The Nexari ships had fired with precision, yet the human vessels stood firm. They shimmered under the onslaught, their shields glowing bright as they absorbed the impact. Myra Thorn stood on the bridge of her command ship, the Athene. She felt the ship vibrate as the energy hit. The hum of the systems buzzed around her, comforting, steady. The screens displayed the incoming attack and the damage report. Her heart raced, but she remained calm. Humanity had faced worse than this. Shield integrity at 70%. An officer called, his voice steady but urgent. Hold strong, Myra ordered, her voice firm. Prepare our counter-offensive. In that moment, she felt a surge of determination. This was not the time to falter. The human spirit was not meant to be broken. Around her, the crew mirrored her resolve, eyes narrowed with focus. Back on the Nexari ships, confusion spread among the technicians. Reports flashed across their screens. Energy readings were inconsistent, unlike anything they had encountered before. How could these biological beings withstand such powerful attacks? Lathyn's confidence began to waver. "What are they doing?" he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. The Nexari had underestimated the shield technology employed by the humans. Their defenses were a mix of materials, crafted with ingenuity and resilience. The human ships were not just metal and wires, they were a symbol of creativity. The Nexari communicated through light, but humans communicated through emotion and will. Captain Thorne's mind raced as she analyzed the situation. The Nexari expected her to fall apart. Yet she had a plan. With a swift motion, she ordered her crew to activate the pulse cannons. Fire at will. The Athene unleashed a barrage of energy blasts toward the Nexari fleet. The air crackled around them as the human ships fired back. Each shot was driven by the fierce spirit of humanity. It was about more than survival. It was about defending their home, their people, and their way of life. As the human return fire lit up the void, Lathyn's frustration grew. Their energy formations were precise and orderly, yet they struggled against the chaos of the human assault. The Nexari ships began to veer, trying to dodge the incoming fire, but their movements were stiff, calculated. Myra directed her crew with confidence. "Maneuver to the left. Adjust our angle." The Athene swerved, and the ship hummed with power as it danced among the stars. The crew was a well-oiled machine, each person understanding their role. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the Nexari fleet. One of their ships shattered into pieces, brilliant shards scattering into the dark. The sight left a mark on Lathyn's thoughts. The humans were more capable than he'd imagined. "Reposition our ships," Lathyn commanded, but his voice was strained. Panic began creeping into the Nexari ranks. Their precision tactics were failing. The humans were unpredictable, darting in and out of formation like fireflies in the night. The Athene surged through the battlefield, cutting through the chaos. Myra felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had identified the weaknesses in the Nexari formations. Each moment was a chance to adapt to surprise. With a swift decision, she ordered a new tactic: break formation, spread out into smaller groups. The crew responded instantly, breaking apart into smaller squads. Isolation would confuse the Nexari. Lathyn watched the human fleet fragment. It was disorganized chaos, yet it posed a new threat. "They're a scattering," he shouted. "Why aren't they acting like a proper fleet?" The Nexari's logical calculations failed to account for the human spirit. The chaos was a tactic, a survival instinct born from generations of struggle. Each human ship became a beacon of defiance. Myra's crew moved with urgency and purpose. They adjusted their energy shields, each ship absorbing the stray blasts while firing back. The Nexari had expected a quick conquest, not this resilient defensive line. As the battle continued, the stark contrast between the two species became evident. The Nexari, with their glimmering technology, struggled against the unpredictable maneuvers of human ships. Each explosion was a testament to human ingenuity, a reminder that they would not be easily defeated. In the heart of the chaos, Captain Thorne felt a shift within herself. She had underestimated her own people as much as the Nexari had. The spirit of humanity was like a flame, fierce and unquenchable. With one decisive maneuver, the Athene took a leading position. Myra's heart raced as she aimed the pulse cannons toward a cluster of Nexari ships. "Now," she shouted. The crew fired, sending forth a wave of energy, hitting their target. A Nexari ship exploded, shards of crystal raining down like stars falling from the sky. Lathyn's heart sank. This was no longer a simple battle. It was becoming a clash of spirits. The Nexari, masters of logic and precision, felt a hint of fear. They could no longer dismiss humanity as primitive. The battle had transformed into a revelation about their understanding of the human condition. In that moment, the Nexari realized that human resilience was not just about technology. It was about heart, will, and the unyielding belief in one another. The tide had turned, and the outcome was no longer certain. As the battle raged on, the Nexari began to question their assumptions. The humans were not mere chaotic beings. They were fierce, adaptable, and courageous. The Nexari might have the advantage in technology, but the humans had something they had never anticipated. They had spirit. The battle continued to unfold, with each side pushing against the other. The Nexari's confidence began to erode, replaced by a dawning awareness. They had underestimated humanity, and that realization was just the beginning. The battle raged in the dark void of space. Flickers of blue and green light filled the scene. Nexari ships fired with precision, crystal beams slicing through the darkness. They expected to see human ships crumble. Instead, the humans held their ground. Captain Myra Thorne felt the hum of her vessel, the USS Valor, as it moved fluidly through the chaos. She had ordered her crew to adopt unpredictable maneuvers. They danced between energy blasts, each twist and turn a testament to human adaptability. The Nexari algorithms struggled against the chaos. Their minds were built for order, and this was pure disorder. Switched to evasive patterns, Myra commanded through the ship's comlink, but her words were more of a signal than a command. Her crew understood the urgency. They had to think, adapt, and shift together. Human ingenuity relied on instinct and creativity. The Nexari had thought them primitive, but they were now learning the truth. As the Valor spun sharply to avoid a crystal beam, Myra felt the weight of the moment. Their shields flickered with each impact, absorbing energy like a sponge. The Nexari underestimated this resilience. They thought shields were mere barriers, not living entities that could adapt under stress. Each blast charged the ship's core, pushing the crew to tap into their inner strength. Around her, the crew reacted. They worked swiftly. Sensors beeped and flashed, sending data streams to Myra's console. She scanned the readings and understood the pattern. The Nexari were trapped in their own logic. They predicted movements that humans did not follow. Their precision now seemed like a flaw. The Valor glided to the left. Nearby, the USS Falcon executed a risky barrel roll, dodging another beam. The Nexari fleet could not keep up. Their command structures faltered. With each passing moment, the Nexaris' confidence waned. Myra's heart raced as she watched the chaotic ballet unfold. The sounds of the battle surrounded her. The hum of engines, the crackle of energy blasts, and the quiet focus of her crew filled the cabin. The air was charged, thick with adrenaline. Every crew member was alive with energy. They were not just fighting to survive. They were proving a point. One by one, Nexari ships fell. They collided with their own in confusion. The humans' unpredictable tactics dismantled the Nexaris' logical order. Myra felt a surge of pride as her crew executed each maneuver flawlessly. But just as victory seemed possible, a setback struck. A large Nexari cruiser unleashed its full might. It fired a concentrated beam targeted at the Valor. Myra's eyes widened. She had only moments to act, shield down. "Get ready to divert power," she shouted. The crew leaped into action. They redirected energy, bringing forth all available power. The ship's systems whirred and hummed. As the beam struck, the Valor shuddered but held firm. The shields absorbed the brunt of the energy, glowing bright with the clash. Resilience defined them. The ship was alive. Myra smiled, a fierce glimmer of determination in her eyes. This battle wasn't just tactical, it was personal. Each human ship was a symbol of defiance against the Nexaris assumptions. They were not the chaotic beings the Nexari believed them to be. They were creative warriors, using their instincts to navigate the void. In the moments that followed, the Nexari began to falter. They struggled to interpret the tide of battle. Commander Lathyn, aboard his flagship, observed the chaos unfold through his shimmering console. He had overestimated their technology. These humans were unpredictable, and their creativity was overpowering. Myra noticed the shift. The Nexari units began to form a more defensive posture. Their once rigid strategies had frayed. The ships became hesitant, their movements less coordinated. They were flailing against the unexpected. Captain Thorne seized the opportunity. She ordered a counter-offensive. All ships follow my lead. Strike the disengaged units. The fleet responded with a unified roar. The humans unleashed their firepower, a barrage of energy beams striking through the Nexari ranks. The noise echoed like thunder in the vastness of space. Each blast marked a victory, a testament to their ingenuity. Myra's heart swelled with resolve. This was their moment. The Nexari had come to conquer, but they were now the ones under siege. Human unpredictability turned the tide. The Nexari lost focus, now seeing their enemies not as chaotic primitives, but as a formidable force. But the battle wasn't over. Still, deep down, Commander Lathyn felt a change. It wasn't just the losses that troubled him. It was the emerging realization that the humans were more than they appeared. They were driven by emotions and instincts that surpassed logic. As the Nexari struggled to maintain order, a strange feeling crept into Lathyn's mind: curiosity. What lay behind the chaos? What motivated these humans to fight with such fervor? Myra glanced at her crew. They were no longer just soldiers. They were a family. Each life saved was a victory for them all. She could sense their courage. The ship felt alive, vibrating with purpose. Together, they were rewriting the script of war. The Nexari were learning a lesson they had not anticipated. Humans were resilient, creative, and filled with the fire of survival. As the battle wore on, their understanding shifted. A crack formed in the Nexaris' confidence. They began to grasp that chaos was not without structure. It was a different kind of strength. And so, the tides turned. Each human ship moved with newfound purpose. They were not just defending their home, they were reasserting their identity. The Nexaris' belief in their superiority began to fade. They faced an enemy that could think, adapt, and fight with heart. As the battle thudded on, Myra understood the significance of the moment. They were proving that humanity was far from primitive. Instead, they were relentless, creative, and fierce. This was a lesson etched in every action, every maneuver, and every decision made under fire. The Nexari would never view them the same way again. The battle raged on. Blue and green light flickered and danced through the void of space. The Nexari ships moved with precision, their crystalline forms glistening against the black sky. But beneath their confidence, doubt began to seep in. Humans were not what they had expected. Captain Myra Thorne felt the tension in her stomach. The chaos of battle swirled around her. Her ship, the Valiant Heart, darted left, narrowly avoiding an energy beam that sliced through the space where it had just been. She suspected her crew felt it too. They were scared but fierce. Suddenly, a cry echoed through the comms. A nearby human ship, the Hopebringer, had taken a direct hit. Thorne's heart raced. She watched as they fought desperately to hold their shields. But it wasn't enough. The Hopebringer began to break apart, shimmering fragments scattering into the darkness. In that moment, Captain Thorne made a decision. With adrenaline surging, she ordered her ship forward. "Protect them," she shouted. The command wasn't spoken aloud, just felt among her crew. They didn't hesitate. The Valiant Heart surged ahead, shields ablaze as it interposed itself between the Hopebringer and the oncoming Nexari fire. The Nexari watched, their crystalline eyes blinking in confusion. The human ship moved in front, a bold act of sacrifice. It was a display of courage that defied logic. Commander Lathyn's face tightened. What motivated this kind of action? There was no strategic advantage in self-sacrifice. As the Hopebringer started to crumble, the crew aboard the Valiant Heart fought with all they had. They fired back with rapid shots, some hitting their marks, but it was the act of bravery that stunned the Nexari. The innate urge to protect their own was something they had not anticipated. This bravery became contagious. Other human ships, witnessing the Valiant Heart's boldness, started to shift their tactics. They began to form a defensive perimeter, not just around themselves, but for each other. Ships moved in close, shields overlapping, creating a barrier against the Nexari onslaught. The Nexari commanders struggled to adapt. Algorithms designed for precise, calculated attacks faltered against the unpredictable nature of human emotions. As the humans worked together, Lathyn felt an unsettling confusion. The very unpredictability they had dismissed as chaos now proved to be a formidable strength. The sites of battle shifted. Where Nexari beams of light had cut through space with precision, now human ships danced erratically, embracing chaos. They moved like leaves in a storm. The Nexari found themselves on the defensive for the first time. Thorn felt a surge of power among her crew. They were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for each other. The sound of alarms filled the ship, but there was also laughter, shouts of encouragement, and a fierce determination that pulsed through every soldier. The energy in the air thickened. It felt electric. Captain Thorn's heart pounded in rhythm with her crew. It was no longer about technology or firepower. It was about connection and the bonds that formed under pressure. The humans were tapping into something deeper, something that resonated far beyond logic. Meanwhile, Commander Lathyn struggled with the implications of this revelation. The Nexari had always relied on their superior technology to dominate others. But this hand-to-hand combat of emotion and sacrifice was foreign to him. He watched as a fleet of human ships rallied around each other, forming a wall of light and metal. This display of unity baffled the Nexari. Their hierarchy, built on logic and efficiency, felt unstable. They had thought humans weak, chaotic, and disorganized. But now they saw a strength in humanity that was invisible to their cold calculations. Lathyn's perception of the humans shifted further. The daring sacrifice of the Valiant Heart stirred something inside him. Perhaps both. The knowledge that humans were capable of such selflessness made him question everything he thought he knew. Back on the Valiant Heart, Captain Thorn felt the tide of battle shifting. She steeled herself, knowing she had to keep this momentum. Together we can beat them. Protect your neighbor, she encouraged, her voice steady, filled with conviction. The words spread like wildfire among the crew. They watched as their comrades fell and stood up for each other. Each loss only hardened their resolve. The scent of heated metal filled the air. The sound of blasts and explosions rang continuously, but amidst it all, laughter and shouts of triumph emerged. As the battle wore on, the Nexari began to suffer losses. Ships that once glided with ease now found themselves disoriented by the unpredictable maneuvers of the humans. Their crystal barriers struggled to maintain cohesion. The very structures that defined their power felt fragile against the raw power of human connection. Commander Lathyn stared out at the battlefield. The chaos surrounded him, as waves of energy moved and shifted. Each moment brought a new surprise. This was not a battle he could win with his previous tactics. The humans had become something unpredictable, something alive with emotion and grit. The realization hit him hard. Perhaps humanity was not the chaos they had believed. It was a force that drove them to act, to sacrifice, and to protect. Thorn's courage ignited a spark of understanding within him. This was no longer about conquest. It was a test of wills. In the heart of the storm, the Valiant Heart and its crew stood resolute. They had transformed in battle. Their sacrifices had created something more significant than themselves. With each act of bravery, they etched a new narrative in the midst of chaos. one that taught even the most logical beings about the depth of human emotion. As the light of battle continued to flicker, the Nexari faced a choice. Would they continue to see humans as mere chaotic beings? Or would they recognize the strength that lay within their emotions? The question lingered in the dark void of space, one that Commander Lathyn now had to confront. Humanity was more than they had ever imagined. They were a force that could not be calculated nor controlled. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was time to redefine what it meant to truly understand another species. The battle intensified in the void of space. The once confident Nexari fleet now faced something they never expected from humanity: unity. As the sharp, crystalline shapes of their ships glimmered against the darkness, a new understanding began to dawn on Commander Lathyn. The Earth Defense Force moved in perfect harmony. Human ships rallied together, their formations shifting like a school of fish. The blue-green energy cores of their vessels sparked and glowed, pulsing with each determined heartbeat. Captain Myra Thorne had transformed her command into a living organism, a network of instinct and courage. The Nexaris' precision attacks faltered. Their crystal beams cut through space, but struggled to find their targets. Human ships danced around the Nexaris' well-coordinated strikes, evading with an unpredictability that puzzled the alien fleet. The Nexari technicians, who once relished in the assurance of their calculations, scrambled to adapt. Their algorithms were not built for chaos. As the battle raged, a loud explosion echoed over the comms. The light of a human ship flickered and dimmed as it sacrificed itself to save two others. The shockwave rippled through the surrounding vessels, and the air crackled with the intensity of the moment. Commander Lathyn watched, transfixed. This was not a strategy he could comprehend. Humans were not simply fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other. The Nexari ships took heavy damage. Their formations broke apart as human vessels broke rank, launching counterattacks with reckless abandon. The sound of energy blasts pierced the silence of space, a chaotic symphony of war. The once sleek Nexari formations now resembled a disorganized swarm, struggling to regain control. Amidst the explosive scenery, Captain Thorne felt a surge of determination. Her crew was not just defending a planet, they were defending each other. The camaraderie ignited a fire within her. Each ship moved not as individuals, but as a collective force fueled by shared purpose. As the engagements continued, Commander Lathyn's confidence began to crumble. He witnessed the parallel strength of human emotion and instinct as they fought back. Something inside him shifted. He realized that humanity's strength lay not just in technology, but in their fierce loyalty and bravery. The glow of the Nexari ships dimmed as damage mounted. Lathyn's once assured calculations were now met with hesitance. Each time they launched an attack, they faced not just a ship, but a living testament to the human spirit. He felt an unsettling respect for these chaotic beings, so different from his own kind. Suddenly, Lathyn's ship shuddered. A human vessel had breached their defenses. The cockpit lights flickered as alarms blared around him. They were on the brink of losing everything. Panic surged in the Nexari ranks. In response, Lathyn forced himself to focus. He ordered an emergency countermeasure. Crystalline barriers sprang up around his ship, glistening against the dark void. Yet it was not enough. Human ships kept coming, fearless, like waves crashing against an unyielding shore. The battle reached a fever pitch. Human ships engaged in a final charge, their engines roaring to life. The clarity of their intent was terrifying. Every ship realized the stakes. They would not falter, not when the lives of their comrades depended on them. The Nexari were outmatched. It was in this desperate moment that Lathyn felt a profound transformation within himself. He saw these humans not merely as chaotic creatures, but as warriors driven by love and conviction. As he watched their ships collide with his, he understood that humanity possessed a strength that transcended logic. With a deep breath, Lathyn made a decision. He ordered a retreat. The Nexari fleet began to withdraw, their crystalline ships slowly disappearing into the dark abyss of space. But even as they pulled back, the echoes of the battle lingered in the cosmos. The realization hung heavy in the air. They had underestimated humanity. What they dismissed as chaos was, in fact, a source of tremendous power. Lathyn's heart raced. Perhaps there was more to discover about these humans than he ever imagined. As the last of the human ships sailed through the debris of war, Lathyn knew this would not be the end. The confrontation had changed everything. A new path awaited both species, one that could lead to understanding and cooperation instead of conflict. In that moment, Lathyn's worldview shifted. The battle was lost, but perhaps a greater victory could be achieved. In the vastness of space, humanity had ignited a spark of hope, and that spark was enough to light up the dark. The battle floated into a tense silence. The once vibrant lights of the Nexari ships flickered dimly against the star-studded backdrop. Commander Lathyn stared out at the stalemate. He felt the weight of defeat. His assumptions about humanity lay shattered around him like the remains of his fleet. They were not primitive, but resilient and fierce. Captain Myra Thorne stood on the bridge of her ship. The hum of the engines pulsed beneath her feet, a steady reminder of what they had fought for. Her crew had banded together, their bonds forged in the fires of battle. The smell of sweat mixed with machine oil hung in the air, but it made her crew feel alive. Lathyn's mind raced with thoughts. He had never expected this from the humans. They fought differently than he had imagined. Their actions were not guided by cold logic. Instead, they were driven by a deep bond. The sacrifice of one ship to save another had ignited a new spirit among the human fleet. He could not ignore it. Thorne's heart pounded. She knew they had to change the course of the battle. But they were now at a crossroads. Victory was not worth the cost of more lives. She looked at her crew, each face filled with determination. Let's create a new path, she thought. She activated the comms, signaling a truce. The choice weighed heavily on her, but it felt right. It was time to reach out, to show that they could be more than enemies. Lathyn received the message, uncertainty swirling in his mind. As he read the words, a sense of respect began to grow. The humans were extending a hand, not a weapon. It was unlike anything he had encountered. The sleek ships of the Nexari hovered in the void, watching. Slowly, Lathyn signaled a response. In that moment, barriers began to dissolve. Commander and captain, once destined to clash, now sought to understand each other. With each passing moment, they moved toward cooperation, not conquest. A new alliance was forming. The galaxy held its breath as two worlds began to connect, reshaping their destinies together.